In my first life, I mistook danger for destiny. His name was Lucian, the Duke of the North, feared on the battlefield, worshipped in court, and cursed in every whisper that dared to follow his shadow. They said he was born with a heart of ice, that the gods themselves had turned from him. I should have listened. But I didn't. He was beautiful in the way storms are, terrifying and mesmerizing. When he looked at me, I felt like the world tilted, like every heartbeat belonged to him. I told myself it was love, it was devotion, but it was only destruction, wearing love's mask. Lucian consumed me. Every word, every glance, every touch of his hand left a mark that bled too deep. I gave him everything, my loyalty, my name, my heart. And he gave me his cruelty. He accused me of betrayal when I tried to stop his war. He cast me aside when I begged him to trust me. And when his enemies struck, I took the blade meant for him, dying in his arms as he finally realized what I had done. He whispered my name as if it could pull me back. But it couldn't. The last thing I saw before the light faded was the face of the man who had both loved me and destroyed me. When I opened my eyes again, the world was young. My hands were unscarred, my heart still unbroken. The war hadn't yet begun. The first snow hadn't yet fallen, the one I'd first met him under. I was reborn before it all began. The gods had given me another chance. And this time, I swore I would not waste it. I would never meet Lucian. I would never step into his path. I would build a quiet life, free and safe. So I left the capital. I lived in a small border town by the river, tending herbs and trading remedies for coin. I learned to be content with silence. I told myself freedom would be enough. But the nights were long, and sometimes, when the wind howled across the mountains, I'd hear echoes of a voice I had loved too much. Months passed. The world moved without me. Rumors of the Duke of the North still reached even our sleepy village. Tales of his cold power, his unmatched command, the way he never let anyone close. I'd close my shutters, pretending those stories were about someone I didn't know, until the day he rode into town. I didn't see him at first. Only the dust, the banners, the soldiers who marched with discipline sharp enough to slice the air. Then he appeared, astride a black horse, his cloak dark as midnight. My breath stopped. Lucian. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to run, to hide, to vanish into the crowd. But his gaze swept across the square and landed on me. And I knew, even before he spoke, that he had found me. He dismounted slowly, his eyes never leaving mine. Something flickered there. Not the cold steel I remembered, but warmth, confusion, and something like yearning. He approached, and the air seemed to bend around him. When he stopped before me, he said my name, softly, as though tasting it for the first time. Ilara. I nearly dropped the basket in my hands. You know me? He hesitated. I don't know why, he said, his voice low and rough, but I feel as if I've seen you before, as if I've been waiting for you. The world spun. In my first life, he had destroyed me. In this one, he didn't even know who I was, yet somehow his soul remembered. I tried to pull away. You must be mistaken, my lord. I'm no one of importance. But Lucian only smiled, faint, fleeting, softer than I had ever seen. No one of importance wouldn't make my heart stop, he murmured. Forgive me. I only wished to know your name. I fled before he could ask more. That night, I sat by my window long after the candles had burned low. My chest ached in a way that felt too familiar. I told myself it was fear. It was the memory of pain. But when I closed my eyes, I could still hear the gentleness in his voice, something I had never known in the man who once broke me. Days passed, and he did not leave. The Duke had come to inspect the northern border, or so the guard said. But he always found reasons to cross paths with me, stopping by my herb stall under the pretense of needing medicine, asking questions he already knew the answers to. Once he caught my hand as I handed him a vial. His gloves were off. His skin was warm. I pulled back quickly, but he didn't release me right away. His gaze met mine, dark and searching. "You flinch every time I speak," he said quietly. "Did I wrong you somehow?" I couldn't answer. How could I tell him that in another life he had been my ruin? Instead, I whispered, "It's not you." He looked at me for a long time, as though trying to see through the lie. Then he nodded. "If it's not me, then I'll do my best to make sure it never will be." And somehow, he meant it. He began to visit more often, never demanding, never cruel. He brought fresh bread, helped repair my roof when the storm broke it, even shielded me when soldiers grew rough in the marketplace. He was still dangerous, still powerful. But something inside him had changed. Or perhaps it was I who had changed. Once, when the northern winds blew cold and fierce, he found me outside, struggling to tie the shutters. Without a word, he took the rope from my hands and secured it himself. Then he looked down at me, snow caught in his dark hair. "You shouldn't be out in the cold," he said softly. "You'll fall ill." I laughed, a sound I hadn't made in years, in 2 lives. "You used to say that as an order." He frowned, puzzled. "Used to?" I bit my lip, realizing my slip. "I mean, men like you often command. It's strange to hear you sound concerned." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm learning." That night, as I sat before the fire, I realized how my heartbeat no longer trembled in fear around him. It steadied. It softened. I had built walls of steel around my heart. But he wasn't trying to break them. He was simply waiting outside them, patient as the dawn. And the more I tried to resist, the more my resolve wavered. One evening, he arrived bruised and bloodied from battle. I tried to turn him away, but he insisted, his voice weak. "I had to see you." I cleaned his wounds, my hands trembling. When I touched his cheek, he caught my wrist. His eyes burned, not with anger, but with something raw, vulnerable. "In another life," he said quietly, "I think I hurt you. I don't know how I know that, but when I look at you, it feels like regret." Tears blurred my vision. He remembered, not in mind, but in soul. I whispered, "You did." He closed his eyes, pain flickering across his features. "Then let me make it right. Please." I wanted to say no. I wanted to stay safe. But as his hand brushed mine, warmth spread through me, a warmth I had thought long dead. In that moment, I realized that love isn't always about avoiding the fire. Sometimes it's about learning that the same flame can warm, not burn, if both hearts choose differently. Lucian's love in this life was quiet, cautious, and real. He did not demand. He gave. He did not possess. He protected. And though I had sworn to avoid him forever, I found myself walking toward him instead. Not out of weakness, but out of the strength to forgive. Because fate may be cruel, but love, when reborn, can be gentler the second time. And this time, the dangerous man who once ruined me was the one who finally saved me.